All right, I'd like to call the meeting order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
All right, next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda for today's meeting. Are there any suggested changes?
Yeah, I have 3 additions for appointments.
And I'll entertain a motion to amend the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, vote unanimous. Steve,
names.
what are the items?
Okay, for the election committee, Mary Ann Whitcomb. For, I think it's Park and Rec, Susan Morris. Is that right? And also Larry David.
All right, so, well, who's the first one then?
The first one is Mary Ann Whitcomb for elections. And actually Larry Davies on golf. And also Susan Morris on golf.
Okay, any other changes to today's agenda?
I had one, although I don't see the document here. I have Helen Johnson, who is joining the Strategic Planning Committee.
Okay. She's on the agenda?
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
I'm
she is
sorry.
there.
Thank
I'm
you,
sorry,
Michelle.
okay. All right. Any other changes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the agenda for today's meeting as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. The agenda is amended as discussed. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from the regular meeting on February 5th. I'll entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of accepting the regular meeting minutes from the February 5th meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Or unanimous? Next item is the approval of the minutes from the special meeting on February 18th. I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of accepting the meeting minutes from the special meeting on February 18th, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Next item, President's remarks. Couple things. Just wanted to make sure everybody's aware we are having an executive council meeting on Monday night, the 9th, here in the, it'll be in the Anna Foltz room at 7 o'clock. Anybody that's an open meeting, it's generally the committee chairs for all the different committees in Ocean Pines. We're going to go, the agenda is published on the website. Speaking of committees, there's still no volunteers for the search committee. So if anybody is still willing to spend some time canvassing the area to look for candidates for the upcoming election, please see me. There's still time to do so. If we don't get a search committee, we're not violating any rules. It's just that it's something nice to have. And since it's in our bylaws and our governing documents, we want to make sure that we fill that out. So anybody that's interested in the search committee, please step up and we'll get you there. The other item on committees is the Strategic Planning Committee is being kickstarted again. We had a initial, meeting the other day, and it was well attended. It's going to be interesting to see how this committee starts to come back online and tie into, if you recall, the discussions we had at the last meeting with regard to the new capital fund and so on and so forth. So they're going to be an integral part in sort of soliciting information from from the committees, from from the membership, and so on and so forth, so that we can have a certain. Are you okay with that? Okay. Technical difficulties. So anyway, so it's good to see that committee back up and running. Last Tuesday, I attended the county commissioners meeting and presented our funding requests for the year. We are pretty much doing the exact same requests that we did last year. Public safety, they give us a grant to help run the police department, roads and bridges. And then the third category was rec and parks and tourism. So we've been pretty consistent with those requests, and they've been pretty consistent with meeting those requests for funding. So that's been done. Comcast. Comcast will be activating Sector 1 on their map sometime in April. that looks like they are on target for that. There'll be more information coming as they get closer to an actual delivery of services to the customers here in Ocean Pines. And they're also going to start looking at some what they call pop-up events and things like that. So you'll see more of a Comcast presence here in the community as they move forward. And then I just also want to personally thank John and the team. There's some information out on the website regarding the coronavirus. I asked the people to take a look at that. It's sort of a public service announcement, showing that the Ocean Pines community is aware and is doing, our level best to provide information, to the membership, so they are aware as well. So again, hats off to that, and I urge people to go out and look at not only the information on the Ocean Pines website, but other sources of information on the coronavirus and all the activities surrounding that. That's it for me. Next item on the agenda is the announcement of email votes and motions. Colette?
Yes, on February 7th, Doug Parks put forth a request for an email vote, seconded by Frank Daly. The vote was to authorize requested purchase of a sound system for the yacht club, which was unfinished business from her previous meeting. The agreement was unanimous to hold the email vote. The motion itself was approval of a requested purchase of the sound system. And the bid for that, at the last meeting, there were some details in the bidding documents that were not clear to all of the directors. And so we gathered that additional information, we reviewed it, we had the vote, and we approved the bid from Mid-South Auto unanimously to the tune of $17,394.42. And the system is designed to overcome the shortcomings in the existing system in the banquet facility at the yacht club.
Colette, thank you. I'd be remiss I want to make sure Director Janicek does have an excused absence. He let us know that he would not be here today and has commented to each of us on some of the issues he felt was important that we were currently working with, but he does have excused absence for today. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. Next item on the agenda, the GM report. John?
Thank you, Doug. So first, I just want to show a couple pictures. Josh was out at the clubhouse. This is just some front pictures of the new clubhouse that probably will be completed mid-April, hoping for May 1st. So you can see the front view of it. We also have a picture of the back where there'll be a 14-foot wide deck going almost the length of the building. There will eventually be an awning on there, hopefully May 1st. So you can see that that'll be a room in itself. So to the left side, all the way to the left, that's more where the bag drop will be. The middle there with the 3 windows and the door, that's where the community center room will be. And next time we'll have more pictures. And I believe, Josh, we have a town hall for March 12th where we'll have more pictures, more detail, and a lot of information on the clubhouse, the golf course, the irrigation system, and any other current events. To the right is the Old Turn Grill, which is now I believe is going to be the Clubhouse Bar and Grill. Again, there'll be a wraparound deck. We plan on having a patio with some nice sails over the top of it to the right of that picture. So that's the rear view, okay? All right, good. So on this page is the Ocean Pines dashboard where we have the level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 is where all the calls come in and the emails that Michelle handles. Level 2 is Kobe, the customer service from the Public Works, CPI, and all that. You can see we got a lot of calls there. Everything has been responded to. Level 3 is the GM office. I had several calls, and they've all also been addressed, and or the emails and the phone calls. Okay, turn the page. So we come to the initiatives. So pretty much these are the projects that are left. We've closed out the craft building and the compensation study. The clubhouse is on track, as I mentioned, May 2020. Hoping for a soft opening before that in April. The budgeted cost was $1.6 million. That's pretty much been publicized. To date, we have spent $1,041,339. There is much oversight on this. There is constant review of the numbers. I do it daily. I have oversight by several members of the board. At this time, we're on track. The spend is below $1.5 million. Next, Court Barn, on track, March 2020, any day now, if not this week. Waiting for the C of O. There was a couple electrical panel things we had to do. The budget was $430,000. We've spent $291,213. I can tell you pretty confidently that number will probably be around $310,000, all said and done. 310, 315, just getting some numbers. Alrighty, so far so good there. And again, that should be any day. Police building on track. As you know, we just started that one a couple months ago. I'm putting down a completion date of September for that and the admin building, which I'll talk about. The budgeted cost for the police was $1,276,000. To date, we've paid and spent $283,614. We do have a forecast. We do have a projected number. It is within the $1,276,000 as of now. Next one is North Star Software. A little different on this one. I put on track, but we did extend. We were on track as far as the financials and several other departments, but we are still working on it. It is a customized system. We are working on it. We have weekly calls. The supplier has been very diligent and responsive, and all the key people or the super users are telling me good stuff going forward. So we're putting there for December the $400,000 budget, I believe, and I've mentioned this before, that we will probably come in a little higher than that, maybe $430,000. It's all capital. To date, we've spent $317,409. Steve and I held back some payments. We will be releasing some as the supplier catches up and works on some of the customized requests. Okay, so all in a pretty much we're on track. We didn't get ahead of ourselves on the spend of the payments, which is good. Next, the admin renovation. So this is what I was mentioning to the police. Obviously, you can see looking across the way that both are connected. We are right now, we have in the budget $220,000 in the 2020-21 budget. As of now, I have a projection of about $170,000 for the roof and the siding. Okay? And that's why I'm putting September. We believe everything will be done by then. But I'll keep you updated. All right, next slide. All right, so the financials for the month, as you'll see, we are comparing, our controller has put together the monthly, which comes right from the controller's report. It's current year versus budget. I am reporting on current year versus budget, which is what our controller's report presents and reports every month, and that's part from, I believe it's FO4. All right, so let's go. Let's look at the numbers. For revenues for the month, $8,256. I'm on the right side, unfavorable. The expenses were favorable by $26,673 for a net number for the month of positive operations, $18,417. Let me just tell you a little bit about where the $18,000 comes from. If I just look at it high level, some of the savings especially, or the favorability, I'm not going to call it savings, the favorability was on wages and benefits, a few different reasons, and again, across several departments. So a couple of reasons. Let me give you the detail. We did have some open positions. A lot of them have been filled. There was some efficiency as far as overtime, and some of the wages did go to capital, since, as you know, we have a lot of initiatives on the capital side. So everybody was working, but some of it is capital in nature. On the golf side, we did have unfavorability on wages. Some of it will be reclassified as we work through the numbers and see what was capital. We are doing work down there on drainage along other lines. The revenue for the golf course for the month was unfavorable. Turn the page. Okay, so year to date, what do I got? 9 months. So we go to the right. For the revenues, favorable $430,661. Expenses were also favorable, $210,772. So on the revenue side, and I've reported this before, in general, high level, the weather was favorable this year. The Madwart Company, obviously in their second year, knocking it out of the park. We did have some favorability also in rec and parks. On the revenue side, Yacht Club was a big number. The Beach Club, Beach Park, and the Marina, mostly weather, was favorable, $123,000. So year to date, on net operations with the favorability of the revenue of $431,000, the expenses $211 brings us $641,000 rounded. So our controller has spoken in prior meetings, and I've also talked about it. We don't anticipate it coming in at that number. It will come in less. We'll definitely cover the $250,000 that we earmarked, or that the board earmarked, to pay off the operating deficit, which was reflected by not being part of the assessment. But we're estimating that we should be favorable around $450,000. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, John. Next item on the agenda is the treasurer's report. Larry?
In regard to our cash and short-term investments, our overall laddered investment rate of return as of January was approximately 2.5%. As of January 31st, the association had $10.8 million in cash. Approximately $4.8 million is invested in CDARs that are fully FDIC insured, and approximately $6 million in money market earning about 2%, and other operating accounts that are fully insured. Our reserve balances, you can see the top line is our April 30th, 19 balance from replacement reserves. We started at $5.2 million, assessments and interest added $2 million, and we've spent $1.8 million. And so as of December 31st, the balance was $5.4 million. That should be January 31st, I'm sorry. And same with the bulkheads again. Started at $2.5 million. With the assessments added $700,000. We have spent $1.2 million in bulkhead work, and leaving us with $2 million. The roads, again, started at $1.1 million. The casino funds added about $325,000. The spend so far has been $500,000, and that's leaving us with a balance of $900,000 additional work to occur as the weather warms up here shortly. So overall, our reserve balances was at $8.8 million starting the fiscal year. The additions based on assessments and interest was $2.7 million. Casino funds again added about $325,000. We have spent $3.5 million to date, and the current balance is $8.3 million. Again, I'll go over John gave you a rundown of the expenditures so far on the different operations. So this is the forecasted reserve. The important part of it is that if you look at the bottom line, our balance, again, as I mentioned, was as of April 30th, 2020, we're anticipating that the balance for overall funds would be at 8.8, and another 3.1 in additions, and again with expenditures of $6.9 million based on everything listed above, leaving us with approximately $5 million in reserves.
Larry, thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comments. As with public comments, please state your name and your address, and the floor is now open for public comments. You just want to grab the microphone? Josh, can you just grab the microphone for her? You sure?
Closer to.
Sorry, it's me again. I want just to remind you, I'm representing the boat club, not me. Thank you. And again, I apologize for being here again. Last time, promise. The boat club wanted to remind the board that we have 500 members. All those members help pay to build that yacht club. And they feel that they should be put in the yacht club. They feel that some of the board members have not even seen what the cabinets look like. They were built by Joe Costello, and the Power Squadron cabinet is very good, very nice. And some were talking about splitting it. I don't think that'll work because their cabinet is well done. Let me see what else I'm supposed to tell you. Oh, that Matt Ott is responsible for food, and we should have some say about our yacht club. That's about it. And I just heard that you are working on something, and I personally do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. So real quick, so Doris, no promises, but there were a couple of ideas that were kind of kicked around. They're in the early sort of concept formulation stage.
Yeah.
And John, you want to?
Yeah, so thank you, Doug and Steve. So actually, and I did speak to Doris when she came in. I've been meaning to call her. So we are trying to look at some ideas, possibly outside, possibly having some enclosed case where when everybody comes in, they'll be able to see it, something similar to the case that was built for the boat that's there. So that's just some of the ideas. Josh and I did look at the cabinet upstairs, as you mentioned. Josh took a lot of pictures. We agree with you. It wouldn't work. But we are trying other items, and we will. Josh and I will give you pictures, and hopefully we can come up to somebody that everybody agrees on. But we are working on it, please.
The boat club appreciates
Yeah,
it.
we'll figure it out.
And Doris, no need to apologize for coming up and bringing up an issue.
Absolutely not.
That's what we want for public
Yep.
comments.
No,
Not many people want to do this, so they give it to me.
That's because you sat on the other side.
That's right. I'm not afraid of you.
Thank you, Doris. Other public comments?
Hi, Doug. No, I just wanted to come up and say, having been on the board, Esther Diller, Widow's Watch. Having been on the board, I am so impressed with how this board is operated. And I just want to say that publicly. The continuity and just everything you guys have done, it's been really a pleasure to watch you guys work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Esther.
Thank you. Other public comments?
No real problem, just an effort. And again, I concur with Phyllis. It's been amazing, absolutely amazing.
Name
But
that.
my name is Paula Gray. I live at 88 Windjammer.
Thank you.
I got about 40 phone calls. My husband said, show up. We have a little tiny, not the forum, we have a little tiny across America called Next Door. It's a little community thing. It's usually how to find a cat, where's a doctor, what's a restaurant. 4 days ago, a notice popped up. I have noticed many trees being cut down in Ocean Pines. I thought there was a neighborhood rule that you had to keep the trees unless they were small, sick. The trees are what make our neighborhood special. Pretty soon we will have to change the name of our neighborhood to Ocean Clearcut. The problem has been that we all hear it. You get up in the morning and what you do is you hear trees being cut down all the time. When it came back on this site, within 2 days, a woman, actually later the same day, we have taken down 16 trees. I like the sunshine. I like less leaves. I have flowers. It is easy to remove trees from your property now. We have 3 more to remove, and I'll have a treeless lot. And then when people chastised her a little bit for what she was doing and how she was getting these permits, you can all read this. Just go to Nextdoor, log on, and you can get the names. I would prefer not to enter a name, even though it's public. Our trees were not rotten, and most were not a threat due to height or wet ground. Moving to the pines was most affordable to us. There are plenty of trees around me if you have, like birds. We did not want the damp leaves. And there are about 12 people like this on here. And our concern is that this is being done I use Ocean Pines. I've had one tree cut down in 4 years I've been here. I use Ocean Pines tree. They are fanatical about paperwork. Okay, you have to get the wrap and whatever. Perhaps someone has made a relationship, or it's just being overlooked somewhat. If you've had a good tree company, not Ocean Pines, I know they do it, but someone who comes in and it's always a rotted tree, are you now rolling out permits without really looking real hard? As information also, and as a support of Colby, I got this from the USDA Forest Service. A 40-foot tree absorbs 4,400 gallons of water in a season. A deciduous tree that's only 30 foot tall does 30 to 50 gallons a day in the summertime when it has leaves and 10 gallons a day in the winter when it's bare. A 12-inch tree base draws 150 gallons of water in the average week. So if she's taken down 16 trees, extrapolate that, the water is now hitting the ground. It's not on her property because she admits she has sunshine and grass, so it's going to her neighbors and it's contributing to a problem that you're all trying so very, very hard to address. The calls were, we were going to come to the forum. They had, before this woman even came on next door. We understand why the forum was knocked down because of what's happening with effluents, but it is now public. Can you try to find out what's going on with this and find out how anyone can have a clear lot in Ocean Pines? And if so, what they are doing for their lot to keep their neighbors from getting flooded and other neighbors? Thank you very much.
Other public comments? Thank you, Paul.
My name's Jerry Luders, live on 109 Bramblewood. You know, I'm all for trees and stuff, but a little different perspective from what was just offered here. If you're going to have trees, there's a lot of cases where the leaves aren't cleaned up in the swells and water just lays there. I haven't seen since I've been here where underneath the driveway drainage pipes have been cleaned. Water just builds up there with leaves. It doesn't drain. So leaves are a drainage problem. It's not being totally addressed. I took down 5 trees, but they were close to my house and they were in danger of, if a wind came, they would fall, and I wanted them gone. Mm-hmm. But if we're going to have trees, then we have to do a better job of cleaning the drainage pipes under the driveways and enabling that flow and that water to drain out of there, because right now we're not. So that's just the other side.
And point taken. Thank you. Other public comments? Seeing none, we'll close public comments and move on to the next item on our agenda. Capital.
I'm sorry. Could I just get the address on that? I heard Bramblewood. What's the address? 109. Thank you.
Got it? Yep. All right. Thanks, John. Next item on the agenda, capital purchase requests. The Public Works is requesting for the bulkheads for 2021.
Okay, so we have 2 requests today. One, as Doug mentioned, is the Public Works 2021 bulkheads. Second is the Police Department. So turn the page. So the first one, and let's change the top there, 2021 bulkhead replacement. In the budget for 2020-21, the team is requesting authorization to go forward in 2021 with staff recommendation of $1,182,150 from Fisher Marine for 3,330 linear feet of bulkhead at $355. By signing the contract now, we will get a reduced rate to the $355 from something that could be possibly well over $385. We have the 3 bids. Everything's detailed in your package. It's in the budget.
I'll entertain a motion to authorize the capital purchase request for bulkheads. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the capital purchase request for bulkheads, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes, unanimously. Next item is the...
Okay, so next is the Police Department. Requesting authorization to go with hired professional recommendation of $44,584.05 to furnish the Police Department. A little different here. Basically, the person is a professional, has background in it, could be considered a broker with the furnisher. She did a lot of research on this. In addition, it was benchmarked to a recent local comparable industry build. The furniture that we compared was better quality. It was lower cost. This furniture will be installed versus the other place we benchmarked was not. Guaranteed. Quality. We also want a quality environment which will assist in the recruitment and retainment of our officers. We've heard the chief speak many times on that. So the request is for the $44,584.05. There's a detailed analysis of all the items that are needed. This has all been reviewed with the police.
I'll entertain a motion to authorize the
It's
capital purchase
replacement.
request for
So moved.
furniture. So moved. Is there a second? Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the capital purchase request for furniture for the police department, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please record the vote was unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, and all that is a replacement, Doug.
Yeah, it all comes out of replacement, just so the public understands that. It all comes out of replacement reserves, not new capital, right? Because these were existing assets. All right, next item on the agenda, CPI violations. John, please.
So the first one, and we are still, hopefully this is the last time I bring these forward in this manner. The first one is 55 Grand Port Road. Unregistered vehicle is the violation. We have the detail of the timeline of everything that CPI and everybody did, and the request is to send to OPA attorney for action.
I'll entertain a motion to find 55 Grand Port a continuing violation.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of finding 55 Grand Port a continuing violation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? According to the motion, unanimous. Next item.
Okay, next, 92 White Sail Circle. Violation, multiple sheds. There's a detailed timeline from March all the way, several situations all the way to March 2020. The recommendation is to send to OPA attorney for action, and you have pictures of all the detail.
Entertain a motion to find 92 White Sail Circle in continuing violation.
So moved.
There's second.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of finding 92 White Sail Circle in continuing violation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Note the vote was unanimous. Next item.
19 Deerfield Court. Violation, shed, no permit, and color does not match the house. Again, we have the timeline. You can see all the detail. You have the pictures, the recommendation of management to the board, sent to OPA attorney for action.
I'll entertain a motion to find 19 Deerfield Court in continuing violation.
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of finding 19 Deerfield Court in continuing violation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Note the motion was unanimous. I believe that completes our CPI violations, and we'll move into the next item on the agenda, and that is unfinished business. There's a motion for acceptance of the ARC guidelines. Steve.
Okay, this is related to the ARC guidelines that the committee has been working on for probably a year and a half or more, and they have been reviewed by several directors as well. I move that the Ocean Pines Board of Directors accept the revised architectural guidelines as presented by the ARC Advisory Committee and included in the Board of Directors packet for this meeting. Upon acceptance of the ARC guidelines by the Board of Directors, the ARC guidelines page numbering and table of contents will be corrected as appropriate. They chose not to do that at this point because if there were changes, then it affects all the paging. The date of revision of the guidelines will be the date the noted corrections are made. The purpose of this motion is to allow the Board of Directors to accept the revised guidelines. In terms of background, the current ARC guidelines are dated August 2006 and were revised on February 2010. The ARC committee has worked over the past year to update and revise the guidelines. The effort has been to clarify areas where there has been confusion and to provide a document that assists all residents of Ocean Pines in understanding and utilizing the ARC guidelines. The ARC guidelines have been carefully reviewed by the ARC committee, President Parks, Director Horn, Rogers, and Tuttle. The revised and updated guidelines will benefit our residents, the CPI department, and the ARC committee in carrying out their responsibilities assigned to that committee.
There's a second.
Second.
Discussion. Kami.
Yes. I had the pleasure actually of working on this document along with Steve and the ARC committee. And I personally want to thank the ARC committee for all of the work that they have done. I attended one of their meetings This is a very thoughtful document. It is one that has had a lot of work, a lot of revisions, a lot of input, I hope, from a number of people that needed that input. So I certainly support the passage of these new requirements. Nothing may ever be perfect. We may need to wordsmith somewhere down the line again, but this is certainly a far cry from where we were and is a very well-constructed document. Thank you, Steve, for your leadership with that committee.
Other comments? Colette?
I just want to thank the committee for their patience in allowing us to really go over this with a fine-tooth comb more than once to make sure that we have a good product. So thank you for your work and for your patience.
Yeah, let me also echo, there was a lot of work that was put in, a lot of thoughtfulness. Nothing's changed dramatically. There's some things in that document that are a little dated, some things that, quite frankly, the first time we ran through them were, I think we called them unenforceable, where there was things like the height of your fire in your fire pit was going to be measured. It's like, you don't really want to be able to enforce something like that. So we made it a little more practical, but again, a lot of input from a lot of different people. And I think we've got a very good document. And I would encourage the membership to make themselves aware of the ARC guidelines, just maybe as a refresher, just to understand it. There are certain things within the community that are, governed, that you might not think are governed, and, they're well within reason.
Can we get it on the internet?
Yeah, actually, when this is done and we've approved these guidelines, Josh will publish them on the website. You'll be able to get to them there. Real quick, I'll break protocol here. Yeah, go ahead.
Anything that may have been now in conflict with the guideline and was approved, it's still going to be good, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to change it.
Right, correct. All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of accepting the new ARC guidelines as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Record that the vote was unanimous. That finishes our unfinished business for the day. We'll move into the next item, which is new business. The first one is a motion. I'll move that we approve the proposed single source contract through Maryland Department of Environment not to exceed $19,000 for mosquito control. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Just an FYI, we do this annually. It's required. And even though we try to get 3 bids, this is a state requirement and it's single sourced rather than going out for bid. And it's been very consistent. We've done it year after year. So it's just, being consistent with the actions of the past. Other discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the proposed mosquito control funding, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please note the motion was unanimous. Next item on our agenda is a first reading of Resolution M01. Frank?
Okay, the topic is first reading of a proposed amendment to Resolution M01. The following changes are recommended per the attached document. And really what this does is add the following sentence in general procedures, which is item 6, step 4B, adds the following words: Addendum A, dash board reporting requirements to Resolution M01.
Seeing that this is just the first reading, we don't have to have a second because it's not a motion. So I'll open the floor for discussion amongst our colleagues. Any questions about M01 as proposed?
I'll start.
All right.
Okay. So kind of general discussion, and it kind of relates to why I didn't speak on your guidelines. Changing any document in Ocean Pines, which is a 50-year-old community, is literally like pulling teeth from a rattlesnake. I mean, there are a lot of things you have to navigate your way through that are difficult. You have to make sure you're not in conflict with other resolutions, other bylaws. So when this was first introduced, and it came through after review by the attorney and by the board and by committees, the Bylaws and Resolution Committee came back and said there was a lack of a sentence in here. And that lack of a sentence created a loophole that didn't make M01 as tight as it had to be to go through a potential legal challenge. And that's why we added that sentence. And then we went through to do the changing, some comments that just the public should be aware of, because I was thinking, well, maybe we could put a correction through. And it actually, since it was deemed not to be a correction, it has to be an amendment to the resolution and requires the first reading. So that's why we're through the first reading, again, to follow our rules. And And then we explained, the committee went on to explain why we needed the addendum A actually in the document to tighten that loophole. And then what it really boils down to is also improves communication between what would be the Architectural Review Committee, the general manager, and the board to know that the loophole has been closed. So that's the whole purpose of of putting through this first reading. My anticipation is that we follow the committee guidance exactly so that we'll have a second reading at the next board meeting, and that'll fully incorporate the new procedure into our operating procedures.
Other discussion? All right, seeing none, just Colette, please record that we registered the first reading of M01 at today's meeting.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is the first reading of Resolution C11. Frank?
Okay, again, the topic is the first reading of changes to Resolution C11. What it does is changes membership, item 1, and the addition is the following. 1 committee position for the Ocean Pines Ladies Golf Association, the Ocean Pines Men Golf Association, and the Ocean Pines Golf Course Members Council shall be reserved, providing membership from these groups, providing members from these groups are willing to serve on the committee and meet all applicable association requirements for committee membership.
And there's not a motion at first reading. I'll open the floor for discussion.
Okay.
Frank?
Yeah, this is quite honestly a newbie mistake on my part. This first reading was approved in 2019, and I didn't go with a second reading. And it was quite honestly my lack of understanding, because I was anticipating feedback from a committee that says good to go for a second reading and didn't get it, so I didn't do anything. And then when we changed 3 new board members, the committee came back and I think appropriately said, with 3 new board members, rather than go to a second reading, it would probably be more appropriate to go to a first reading and then go to a second reading. And again, my anticipation is going to a second reading and at the next board meeting. And what this does is just attempts to make sure that everybody understands that is a stakeholder in golf, that they have a voice on the board advisory committee so that they can bring forth, and the advisory committee can bring forth any recommendations directly to the board, speaking for all stakeholders. It doesn't really force any structural changes. It doesn't force anybody on the committee that doesn't want to be there. It just says that if a member from those group was elected or appointed to go to the committee, that they would kind of get like preferred status if the committee is filled.
Other discussion? Larry?
Just that, and I agree with Frank, the 3 groups mentioned have a lot of impact and insight as to what goes on at the golf course. By allowing these permanent seats on the advisory committee, it's not required that we go through the approval process all the time. So these people will be appointed by each committee, and then they'll attend the meetings for the women's group, the men's group, and the golf members council.
Yeah, and, all right, Kami, go ahead.
Is there a board advisory member to that, Larry, or are you going to be the board liaison to the?
Frank is the
Oh,
liaison.
Frank is? Okay,
Yeah,
thank you for that.
Just like any other advisory.
Okay.
Yeah, real quick, it makes all sense in the world, very much in support of it. The only question I would have is on the chance that, we're using the word, reserve. So you got the reserve spot on each. If that committee doesn't choose to participate in the advisory committee, that seat can be filled by somebody else, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's no restrictions, as long as we're aware of that. I would think it would behoove them to, want to send a representative to be on the advisory committee, but on the off chance that doesn't happen. But yeah, I think we're fine. Other discussion? All right, seeing none, please record that we had the first reading of C11 at this meeting. Next item on the agenda is the first reading of F03, Resolution F03, that's mine. In essence, per guidance from the Budget and Finance Committee, the amount in which an asset is starting to be tracked in our system is going from $5,000 down to $2,000. Right, that's the only change to F03. Discussion. Larry?
The reason for this change is we changed it several years ago to $5,000, and the net impact is that anytime a new capital purchase is made under $5,000, it has a direct impact on the operation budget, and it doesn't, if it's under that $5,000 amount, it does not get entered into our asset register. So we believe that this is a more appropriate level, and supported by the Budget Finance Committee, the General Manager, and myself.
Other discussion? All right, seeing none, please record that the first reading of F03 was conducted at this meeting. Next item on the agenda is the first reading of Resolution C01. Colette.
Yes, these revisions are addition of a statement regarding the use of a charging document to articulate requested tasks to the advisory committees, and the advisory committees requesting tasks from the board. Addition of suggested format for committee meetings, and then 2 attachments, the board advisory committee charging document and the committee minutes format.
Discussion.
I'd like to just give a little background on this. The idea here is it speaks to frustration that advisory committees have had regarding flow of communication between advisory committees and the board, and also information regarding the minutes of the meeting, what happens in the meetings. And so the charging document is really a good way for us to document, going both directions, tasks that have been identified either by the board or the committees that are important enough that we need to really track them and get feedback on them. And so that was an important thing. I want to thank the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee for reviewing this yesterday in their meeting on relatively short notice to allow us to have this first reading today. And they did make a suggestion in the section that talks about the dissemination of minutes that they would like. We've added dissemination of minutes to the committee liaison to the document, but they would also like the document to stipulate that these are also disseminated to the assistant secretary, who then can facilitate their posting to the web so that members can see what the committees are working on, the board can see what the committees are working on, and we can all stay informed. And I guess that covers.
Other discussion? Cami.
Colette really capitalized what I was going to remark on, but I think this is a very effective tool in helping us keep track of the issues that are before us, and those that are in mid-phase, and then those that are close, so that all members of the association can see exactly where we are and be able to contact a board liaison if they want to have input, or any member of the committee if they want to have input into what is being discussed on that particular matter.
Yeah, let me also add, I think, the language here and kind of supports the renewed interest in advisory committees. I always said there's a lot of intellectual capital out there, and there are people who are willing to provide their time and their expertise to help the community. And, I've tried to leverage the advisory committees more than we've done in the past. And I think this continues that approach in that we do count on these advisory committees for a number of different things. And I think it's a great resource, and, we welcome the input, and we're going to do a little bit more concerted effort to make sure that we capture that information as it's needed to help us run the community. Other discussion? Seeing none, just please record that we had a first reading of C01 at this meeting. Next item on the agenda, a motion to adjourn to closed session. Colette?
Doug, just 2 comments to make before we go. Is that okay?
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, first off, I just wanted to add on to your comments regarding the information provided to the community on the coronavirus. The work group also looked at the operations of Ocean Pines Administration itself. The we want to assure the community that the police department, fire department are aware and have contingency plans. And the work group made recommendations to the general manager for to make sure that the administration has contingency plans in place should something occur where operations in Ocean Pines have to be shut down, to include the decision-making process if any of our community centers have to be closed, such as the yacht club, the country club, or this building. And then the second comment I want to make is because there's been a lot of interest in the work group for the new capital reserve fund, the policies and procedures. The work group is going to meet Wednesday at 1:00 for the first time to start working on those procedures.
Thank you, Larry.
Doug, one thing.
Okay, we're breaking protocol all over the place. But Frank, please.
So really, I'd like to thank John, okay, in his role as GM, because earlier this week, I sent an email that said to Doug and to John and said, should we have a work group talking about what to do with the coronavirus? Because it's publicized and it's something that we shouldn't be afraid of, but it's something that we should be getting ahead of. And then I was pleased to find out that work group already exists, which is, for those of you that have lived in the community, at least since I have in 2013, a pretty doggone pleasant change that we got in front of something before somebody coming in and hitting us with a bat and saying we should be paying attention to it. So thank you, John, for you and your team for being proactive in doing that.
Noted. Okay, now back to Robert's Rules of Order and Protocol. The next item on the agenda is a motion to adjourn to closed session. Colette?
Yeah. Did you want? We're going to do the appointments
Yes.
first? Okay.
Trust me, the chair will run the meeting appropriately.
We're all thinking the same thing.
I'll make sure we follow the proper protocol, please.
Go ahead.
So at a meeting of the Board of Directors of Ocean Pines Association Incorporated held on this 7th day of March, 2020, at the Assateague Room of the Ocean Pines Community Center, the board voted to adjourn to closed session for the purpose of discussion of matters pertaining to employees and personnel, specifically related to potential amendment to the general manager's contract as permitted by the Maryland Homeowners Association Act, Section 11B 111-4I. That's it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor of adjourning to closed session at the end of this meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Please note the vote was unanimous. Now, prior to adjourning the meeting, we will take the next item on the agenda, and that is appointments. There are appointments, and I will beg the board's indulgence to consider doing all of them at once. Susan Holt, first term, ARC as an alternate. Larry Malone, third term, ARC. Olga Novy, second term, golf. Ronald Porcelli, first term, Rec and Parks. Martha Aurthur, first term, Rec and Parks. Helen Johnson, first term, Strategic Planning. Patricia Benner, first term, Environment and Natural Assets. Mary Ann Whitcomb, first term, Elections. Susan Morris, first term, Golf. Larry Davies, second term, Golf. All of those were added as part of the amended agenda. So I will entertain a motion to accept all of those appointments.
So moved.
Is there any discussion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on any one of them in particular? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of accepting the appointments as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please note the vote was unanimous. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.